FreeMMOStation.com.
Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Skyland Shore here with FreeMMOStation, and today we're going to do a first impression, and we're going to be talking about Devilian Online, okay? So I had my hands on with this. I've only played like the first 30 minutes or so truly it's a real first impression. It's not a full review. Don't mistake that, guys. But still, you know, I can kind of assume some things, and I do a lot of first impressions, and recently a lot on just, you know, action RPGs from the East. So I can compare and contrast and kind of see where this game falls in line and see if I want to play it, and, you know, as I'm talking about it, you guys can maybe decide if you want to try it yourselves. But I just want to jump right into it. Let's go. Devilian Online seems like a pretty usual action RPG, honestly. It seems like it borrows a lot from a lot of other action RPGs, but the thing is that it actually does it pretty well. Now, the classes they're not really varied enough for me personally, and the mechanics aren't as unique as Lego minifigures or as ELOA. But, you know, even though it's actually still a little bit more standard, sometimes being standard is fine. You know, as long as you have that level of polish that other games can't compete with. So even though, I guess, technically, you know, if you played Diablo 3, you basically played this game. It's very similar, except, you know, with a worse story. But it is a free-to-play game, and it is really arcade and action-packed, and it does kind of have a unique aesthetic. It kind of looks almost like League of Legends. It's like a little bit cartoon and kind of painted. It's got this really clean art style that's really colorful. I'm not going to say that the game has a lot of character in it. It doesn't, you know, it's not oozing cuteness, and it doesn't have like this really cool like epicosity that like Path of Exile has, which is really dark and gritty, almost Dark Soulsian. No, it doesn't really have that. It has kind of like its own thing, but not really. It's you know, it's somewhere gray, and it's kind of hard to kind of praise the game for any one feature that it has. It's really the fact that it has all of these somewhat usual features, but it kind of ties them together in a nice polished bow. At least that was my experience. So yeah, I just recently played ELOA, and as you guys know, if you guys saw that first impression, I said the game didn't run that well. It was kind of awkward. It seemed super grindy. There was no story. It was just, I don't know. It was just K, you know, nothing special. But this game right here, yeah, Devilian kind of it does actually have some story. There is a semblance of a story there. There's something, at least. There was some cutscenes, and our character is a Devilian, which I'm not exactly sure what a Devilian is right now. So the story is kind of light. It's no Path of Exile. It's no Diablo 3, but it is there. It does exist. However, once you get past the tutorial stage, it seems that you're going to go into something like usual questing, where in Path of Exile, I guess mechanically, it's kind of like usual questing, but you have a really good voice acting, and you have all these different little bits of voice acted lore, and there's just like a lot of hidden treasure troves of like history and world building and lore and storytelling that's really good in Path of Exile. But in this game, it seems like it kind of cuts away a little bit, but still, I don't think it's going to be as monotonous and as boring as ELOA. But then again, just my first impressions, it really could be just as monotonous. However, because how the first impressions worked, it wasn't just like a tutorial. It jumped you right into the story, and so I really appreciated that. Games that allow you to sort of play the game instead of just tell you how to play, I enjoy that. So that's kind of what it did. I could say that the classes, even though like aesthetically and visually they kind of seem different, they really borrow a lot from each other, and they have very similar abilities between each other, at least starting out, and that's probably so that players can kind of have a well-rounded leveling experience. But then later on, I'm assuming that the gameplay is actually a little bit different, because the aesthetics are very different, and I can see the inspirations from them. So for instance, if we play the assassin-type character class, I believe that the character looks completely stolen from Terra. I'm gonna straight up like call them out. It looks like a Castonic without horns, and it looks like he's playing the Slayer class from Terra. Like, exactly. The color scheme, the abilities, and the way the guy dresses, everything. So yeah, speaking about that, guys, the classes, you know, Bunny Ears classes are actually characters. So they are gender locked, I guess, if you call them classes, but there's not much customization. It's not like you're really going to be changing around this character too much. It's just pretty bare bones there, not much customization, not even really a point to even mentioning it, I guess. So just know that. It's a character game. You're going to click a character, you get some slight customizations, and then boom, you're going into the game. But we do have a couple of classes. However, it doesn't seem like there's going to be a holy trinity like we see upcoming in the Lost Ark game. It doesn't seem like it's really built around that. It's really built around solo play, solo grinding, and everyone kind of being like a jack of all trades with some slight specializations. So the different classes, mechanically, you know, they all have big AoE abilities. Some might be more AoE than others, and some are maybe melee more oriented, some are mid-range, some are long-range. But overall, you know, the leveling experience and my first impressions is that everything is just well-rounded, a jack of all trades. But then again, the game could have designed that specifically so that everybody has a even leveling field. So yeah, if you guys actually play this game and have gotten deeper, please let me know in the comments below. I think everyone would really appreciate that. Alright, but let's go into detail about these exact battle mechanics, okay? The game plays really well, okay? Like the graphics, everything, yeah, I can mention that. It looks good, it plays well. But no, like really, seriously, the frames per second is really high, and the actual mechanics, the engine itself seems to be very responsive. Nothing was really sticky. Everything kind of just worked. It just worked appropriately. Now, you don't have instant turning. You do have a slight turn rate, but still, I was able to move around, kite around, and it's going to be really important in this game because when you're fighting bosses or even just normal monsters, they do have skill shots, they do have ground targeted abilities, and you need to jump out of those indicators. You need to jump out of those, like, you know, the circles. You got to dodge the circles, basically. It's like a reverse whack-a-mole, and then, yeah, you spam your abilities. That's basically it. It seems that every class has their own unique energy system or resource, but I haven't really experimented too much with it. I don't know how impactful it is. It could just be like an aesthetic change. Like, it could technically still be mana, but they just call it energy for some weird reason. Whatever. Anyways, that was just how it seemed. But it's not going to be like World of Warcraft, where you have a unique resource, and then you have a unique second resource. Like, you have energy, and then you have combo points. It's not going to be as complex, or maybe some people would think convoluted, as that. I prefer, actually, like, secondary resources and stuff like that. I play those kind of characters. I think that's really fun, having lots of resource management, and then using that to do crazy epic combos, and I just feel like there's a lot of strategy in that, and especially in a game that's, you know, this genre, it's not the most mechanical of games, okay? It's an action RPG, but it's a top-down action RPG. Most of the time, they focus on tactics and strategy, on preparation, and then actually following through with that preparation, and, you know, knowing the bosses and dodging the abilities. It's not really about aiming abilities and stuff like that, so, yeah, this game follows suit with that. Aimed abilities, like, there is a lot of skill shots, don't get me wrong, there's not even an auto attack. However, when you use your abilities, it kind of does sort of auto-aim. Like, it kind of hits the nearest target that's closest to your mouse. So it's almost kind of similar to Elder Scrolls Online, where it pretends that you're aiming, but really it's going to hit the monster in the general direction that you're aiming. So you could actually miss, but it would still... You guys know what I'm talking about? Alright, anyways. So there's like sort of like a soft aiming system inside the game, but it's not very apparent, and I don't know if it's even necessary, really, but the game feels like there's lots of skill shots and lots of mechanics and stuff. But don't think that it's going to be like League of Legends, okay? It's not as mechanical as that. You're still just going to be basically just throwing out tons of spam and then just mowing down enemies, which is kind of fun. Yeah, that's kind of why we play action RPGs a lot of the times. It's not really about the mechanics per se, but I did want to mention that the game has somewhat of, you know, a little bit of mechanics. And that's basically going to be the story for the whole game, is that everything about it is just, it's average quality, but, you know, average quality is actually pretty rare in this genre, and especially the free-to-play action RPGs. Okay, so we have above, you know, super high-quality AAA games, Path of Exile. Path of Exile is the action RPG that's fucking amazing, and it is actually online, guys, by the way, so you can play online. This game borrows a little bit more from MMOs. It seems like there's going to be a bigger skill bar. It seems like we're going to have more abilities to spam, which is always fun, and definitely a little bit different than normal, usual action RPGs. They normally have, you know, a little bit tinier action RPG skill sets, sometimes 4 abilities, sometimes 8. This game seems like it has significantly more. It also borrows from MMOs in other ways, with item trading, and you have mounts that you can move around and maneuver around the world, and of course you have the usual quest lines. But so it kind of seems like a blend of the two, but definitely focuses more on action RPGs. But I want to say, yes, this is a standard action RPG. It's, you know, all across the board. It's standard, but it's like, it's good. It's a good standard. It's not like, oh, it's the usual shit. No, because, yeah, a lot of the action RPGs are B level. This, it's like B+. You know what I'm saying, guys? Okay, so I'm just trying to be casual here. I'm just trying to, you know, say my first impressions, guys. Come on. First impressions. If you guys have played this game, please let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. I'm Skyline Shore with FreeMMOStation. Like and subscribe and all that good jazz, and we'll see you again next time.